Oh my goodness, everyone. It is time. It's another Wednesday afternoon. Let's get that music out of there. It's usually the other person's job. But the other person, as you can see right now, if you're watching on video, if you're watching on YouTube, Wednesdays, 4:20 p.m., brand new shows Because Cannabis from Wayward Media. If you're watching video on Spotify, brand new episodes of Because Cannabis every single Thursday on Spotify with video or anywhere that you listen to audio podcasts. Normally, in that box adjacent to me, right next to me, to my right, to my left, it depends on which way I guess you're looking at the screen, is usually the handsomely, overly hirsute Dustin Kava. And today in the box, special guest appearance, past guest, Kevin Roche. How you doing today, man?
Hello. Hey, how's it going, bud?
It's good. Thank you. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks for filling in. Dustin, I don't know, out of the country. I'd like to think he's on a secret spy mission. Maybe he parachuted into like Cambodian cannabis fields to like save a genetic strain. I don't know what he's doing right now.
Is he in Cambodia?
No, I don't know where he's at. He's probably just at his house. Just at his house. He's doing things. He's a busy man.
He's at an undisclosed location in an underground bunker perfecting the science. That's all.
To be science.
I'm an NDA. That's too much. I've actually said.
But he would be. He has a science. He has this 10-year long running project. We've talked about it on the show before. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for listening to Because Cannabis. He has this 10-year long project of this self-enclosed water bong that's fully encompassing, that you can put it in your pocket and it keeps shrinking the size. I saw it like 11 years ago in a PVC pipe. It was like 6 feet tall. It's gotten down to a much smaller thing, but it's the self-contained, fully smoke it 3 ways, revolutionary like product that he's been working on. So if there's something he's grinding away at, Dustin Kava, it's that right there. But today we got Kevin Roche with us. We're going to talk some stuff. We'll talk some, maybe a few news articles that are happening in the industry. Catch up with Kevin. He's been on a past episode. Google through the past searches. You can find him there. See what's going on in the cannabis world. See what's going on in Kevin's world. For you, make sure you subscribe. Click that little button below. We would definitely appreciate it. We got a lot of great interviews coming up as well this month. Big news happening at Wayward.media on the interwebs. Right now, we've talked about it. Starting August 1st, Raven Ariola and the Plants. Oh, messed up your plug, buddy. I'm sorry. Raven Ariola and the Plants Saved My Life podcast. Season 2 is going to debut. It's moving over to the network. So check it out. PlantsSavedMyLife.com. Great in-depth conversations, whether it's doctors, whether it's patients, shamans. Kevin, have you met Raven? He's a compadre, co-worker of ours at the Cleveland School of Cannabis. Have you met and had a long in-depth? Because I believe you will enjoy them.
No, I haven't. But I want to talk to that dude.
Yeah,
Raven. I've had like 5 words exchanged with Raven, and I need to talk to that guy. I just want to pick his brain about stuff because I get the feeling he's very much a kindred spirit, and I like the cut of his jib.
Yeah, he's a well-researched, good hair on that man. Well-researched, thought out person when it comes to this. Really delving into, if it grows from the ground and it has had a therapeutic, medicinal effect on your body, and it's not just cannabis. Like this is where this can go from basic herbs, a lot of psychedelic conversations as he's moving in towards a lot of great conversations on this new world. And I think it's something, Kevin, that it's still interesting. For example, just yesterday, I won't name any names, please. Just yesterday, I had a conversation with a dear friend of mine, and he is going through this is gonna be hard for me to say. And at a fortunate young age, I had a friend of mine, is a male in his early 30s, that was just diagnosed with colon cancer. And it's been a really hard thing to deal with. And so he is a longtime cannabis consumer. Good. And we saw him yesterday for the first time. He's looking great. It is going well. He's always in my thoughts and prayers. But he was talking about how he always kind of smoked weed. And he got his medical card. Shout out Dr. Bridget Williams. Got his medical card, got going. Even though he smoked weed for a long time, he's now consuming cannabis medicinally. Like he's thinking about these strains. And when he has nauseating effects from chemo, when he has these things, it's really changed. And he's quit drinking. And obviously all these other lifestyle changes you have to make to alter and better your improvement. But it's even interesting amongst, air quotes here, people, weed smokers, how when they maybe have a life-altering situation or maybe dig deeper into the science, a longtime weed smoker can even be a convert to the medicinal cannabis world. right? It's interesting when it happens sometimes.
Absolutely. And, you know, and my perspective is all marijuana is medicinal marijuana. Like if you're smoking weed just to get high, you're still getting all those like medical benefits, whether you are like asking for it or not. But there is also a perspective. I like to make a different differentiation in my classes because I teach something called patient navigation sometimes, and which is like teaching people how to operate in a dispensary type environment. And the one thing I always kind of drill in their heads is that there is a difference in the way we are thinking, a difference in the philosophy and actions in a medical versus a recreational dispensary. When you are operating in a medical marijuana dispensary, you are selling medicine, all right? And we have to approach things with the same considerations that we would have with any other type of medication, where we are treating things, you know, seriously. We're adhering to pharmaceutical principles like, you know, responsible dosing protocols, well-timed titration. You know, we really, like, if this is going to be medical marijuana, we don't want people to give us that criticism of, oh, it's just a bunch of hooligans getting stoned and, you know, pretending that they're, you know, curing the cancer. No, like if we're going to be doing this, and we got to do it. And so that is why, you know, you got to appreciate that difference. But yeah, great for your buddy that, you know, he's got a new perspective shift in the way he's consuming, you know. Yeah.
I went to my, I think since the last time I saw you, I went to my first dispensary trip here in Ohio. And it was a blend between the two. Like I would say, and I've only been to one so far. I've been to a few, like not operating as part of a representative or media and stuff like that, but not as a patient. And now that I'm a patient in the state of Ohio, shout out Dr. Bridget Williams, I have found, you know, the first one I went to, and I was familiar with it, and I know people there. I ran into multiple students from the school. Good for them, getting jobs.
Dude, I can tell you about that later.
And so I found it to be, it tiptoes the line. It definitely works on the medicinal, but there's a lean into, we know who our people are. And so I'm going to be curious as it evolves, like, do the medical dispensaries as more, like, do you think so? For example, like as more states get adult use, and we're closer there every day, we got like some 38, 40 states now, almost medicinal, 22 or something adult use. So as that goes more and more, do you think in order to really separate themselves, medicinal marijuana dispensaries shift their branding, their motif to a very doctory office vibe and less from the tiptoe between the stoner and let rec go all in? Like, do you think there's going to be a shift? Because as you see, every state that goes medicinal and adult use, like medicinal sales kind of, there's kind of plateau, right? They just stay at a small percentage. They're a very small percentage. In adult use, typically rung after rung climbs year after year. So I think it's going to be interesting how states with both, if the medicinal places do what you talked about, just like really lean into the medicinal aspects.
Well, the first point that I want to say is that the goal of medicine is not to make money. It is to treat sick people. That's the first thing that we have to say. And so in my vision of a world in the future, when we talk about medical marijuana, it is going to be like pharmaceuticalized. Like it is no longer going to, like, it is going to be absorbed in some aspect by like other mainstream pharmacies and treated like a pharmaceutical product. All right, you go do your recreational thing on the other side of it, but when you need to get things in specific doses and specific formulations, and especially when we're getting into more complicated methods of administration, then yeah, I would like to see that more medicalized, more formalized into pharmacy. Ideally, you know, medical marijuana, it's medicine, right? You go get your medicine at the same place for everything else. I don't understand why there has to be a different philosophy and way that we are dispensing this particular medication. I understand that it's a Schedule I drug, you know, whatever that means in the next 5 years, but like we still should try and shift that consideration. Now, does that mean that the recreational market is going to grow? Yeah, totally. All right. Like there's no, in that kind of scenario, you know, medical marijuana is just kind of absorbed by a larger pharmaceutical element. And then recreational marijuana stands out as its own thing. Recreational cannabis, I correct myself, stands as its own thing. Yeah. That's, you know, the way that I would envision in a perfect world things go. We don't live in a perfect world. We'll see what happens. But that's just kind of the way I idealize it, you know? Like,
yeah, it's medicine, interesting.
Let's go all the way.
I have a friend who really, like, when I was talking, he's a budget guy. Right? He's a budget when it comes to his medicinal cannabis. And so he turned me on to capsules. In capsules, if you go into any dispensary website, and I've been doing this research the last few days, are typically a very low cost per dosage compared to other edibles, given they don't need any other ingredients. It's just a gel cap and the flower. They don't need the sugars and the cookies and the wrappers. It's a simple packaging, and it's a simple dosage, and it's a very easy to consume, something we're used to. And so I found it interesting. If you're looking to get medicinal, that's an aspect. Like, there's no overhead in that. You don't have to pay for all the fancy packaging and the colors and all the logos. You just straight capsules. And I wonder if that is maybe the push. Because when I look at this bottle, and I bought a bottle, when I look at them, it looks like anything else on my pill shelf now. It's not like anything else cannabis related. Even when you get into like tinctures and stuff like that, it looks like 100% standard. I don't want to use legitimate. That's the wrong term. Just standard medicine. And I felt like that step there, if you handed it out more like that, people would be like, oh shit, like this is medicinal cannabis. I take a pill, I get the effect, but I'm not, hitting a Billy Bong Thornton or eating a truffle bar.
Medicine isn't supposed to be sexy, right?
Yes, that's my
medicine
point.
It's supposed to be like a Flintstones vitamin. It's something you should be taking just as part of the normal routine regimen. And I hope that doesn't upset anybody because they own a medical marijuana dispensary or something. But it's like
we all love it. We're all in the industry, but it's a really weird thing for me. Is it just a marketing guy? Like, when medicinal is sexy and funny and has, silly logos and it's green cat piss or green crack. I mean, that's weird, right?
I don't want that if I'm trying to cure my cancer, bro. I don't want that if I have, can you just give me a normal medication? Can I go buy it at the pharmacy? Can my health insurance cover it? This is where I see medical marijuana becoming kind of a split off in an idealized world from recreational cannabis, where it's fully in, like, you're getting it at the hospital, you're getting it at the CVS on the corner, and it is we don't want to use that word legitimized, but fully realized as medicine.
Legitimized is probably the right word in some ways, though, because I think that's the point, is doctors don't take it seriously. You know what would be funny? So right now you have this battle, right? You have MSOs versus legacy, like it's some WWE shit, right? These battle between the old schools and the new schools. Do you think there's ever a faction off to where, when the medicinal folks really get medicinal and start doing it, that cannabis advocates are like, man, you're taking away all the fun? Do you think sometimes the cannabis advocates are out there with their protesting and medicine for everyone? And I'm not calling out names, but I think a couple of you, if you look deep into your green hued mirror, would see, what are you really promoting here? And I'm just, I am very honest about where I'm at. I think recreational adult use should be legal. I think it should be there. I think it's an older person's drug. I still believe it should be 30 and over. That's a little controversial, unless it's medicinal for epilepsy in children and things like that. So I believe adult use should be there. I understand the medicinal, but sometimes it feels a little, and I think we're getting there. We're talking about it, a little skeevy. I don't know.
Well,
a little too sexy. That's a great word.
It doesn't need to be. And if you really look into the history of the medical marijuana movement, it's been around forever. The medical marijuana legitimacy movements. And the moment Nixon signed the document, the people that were thinking up normal were meeting in a bar somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So the medical marijuana movement historically really suffered in the beginning. Because we kind of played into what we like a bit too much. And we didn't focus on the image. And it was a little bit more we didn't have a lot of science. A lot of people were in it, maybe doing a little, we just want to get high. And that's okay. Listen, all marijuana is medical marijuana, to an extent. But it wasn't until the early 1990s, when we see, 1994, 1996, when we see California's medical marijuana apparatus show up. That happened because they medicalized, right? That was the way they were able to get that through to a wider audience to accept, the concept of marijuana in their society. When they signed the Compassionate Use Act in 1996, a lot of the focus, Dennis Perron and Brownie Mary, and the Ethan Nadelman and the others that escape me at the moment, once they shift that perspective focus from like, hey, we're kind of just having fun, little yippies in the park, to like, this is medicine, and we are using this to improve society, and we're using this to help people in your community. That like America was kind of like cool with it.
Yeah, no, it did change the shift. Some people
with that tonal shift
branding,
is what got us that acceptance. Sorry, go on.
No, you're right. And it changed that shift. I think it allowed that acceptance. And I think initially in 96, in a different era, I think it was needed. I don't think that message is needed to get medicinal passed anymore. I think the science now has caught back up with it. And I think if you want to use the medicine, I think now your pitches are very clearly adult use, weed for everyone, or at least weed for the needy or weed for the sick kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. And like, if you're ill, you should have access to medication. But like, once we're into the realm of like adult use, you're of age, whatever, man, like the world's your oyster. This is America. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But once it's recreational use, go nuts, do everything. Cause I participate in cannabis culture, right? Like, I'm also that guy. I am also the dude smoking weed in the parking lot before literally everything. It's a problem in my life. But like, all my shirts have weed on them. This is the only one that doesn't, B.C. So what I'm saying is that the adult use culture, we can exist like that. But we have to let medical marijuana kind of become that's full realization of what it is. It's medicine, right? And we don't really need to do that divide anymore, No,
it's interesting. I want to talk to you about shirts in a sec. Let's give a quick shout out. Who's on your shirt right there? You were telling me about your shirt. It's for a good cause here.
So yeah, this is my cousin Katie. She runs a dwarfism awareness charity. And she has a charity event that she's doing on September 30th of 2023. This is a third year running. This is last year's shirt, and the project is called Looks Short, Stands Tall. It's a pub crawl. If you're in the southern tier of New York and you want to support a good cause, the money that's collected from donations is given to different charities for dwarfism and little people. And yeah, it's a short walk for a good cause. The pub crawl is like 250 yards, and then you go back. So it's a great time.
Come on, you're making it.
Well, she came up with the whole thing. So
here's what I appreciate. I appreciate that they are all, and we're going to put that link. There's a Facebook event link, and we'll put that link in the description below on both Spotify and YouTube. But I appreciate, and this is, as someone, I walk in this world, I like to be funny, but I understand, and I try to be sensitive. And when I saw your shirt, it kind of was like that. And you're like, oh no, it is that. It is a dwarfism walk, and I think it's fun when people can play into it. I've talked on the show before about cerebral palsy, my relationship. I love like finding like CP comics, or there was an American Ninja Warrior recently, with a guy with one leg. I love that stuff. It makes me fired up, and they can lean into what they are and what they aren't, and just advocate for who they are. So check that out. Look short, stand tall. A great walk there. We'll have the link in Facebook. That'd be fantastic. That's a good shirt. Do you have issues? I don't know. So maybe I'm more self-conscious than you. I don't know. We'll find out right now. So I do have a tremendous amount of clothing that is cannabis centric and cannabis labeled from both my time at the Cleveland School of Cannabis, as well as just now I meet people, I get more and more cannabis shirts. I find them, I don't always have places to wear them. I find the places I can toss them on. It's like, it's not like even a good band shirt. It's like a good band shirt with a really vulgar saying on the back that you love. And at the concert, people are like, fuck yeah, high-fiving you. But when you walk into Acme, they're like, sir, can you take that off? And now the cannabis ones are a little different. I mean, it's not there. And it's one thing to have a logo, but when you have like weed, kind of weed for the people, big joints hanging out, it's this catch-22. Do you ever feel self-conscious when you're wearing them and you're not in the community, as the quotes say?
All right, so we're gonna have to do a first caveat. I love merch. Right. Send me merch.
Okay.
I wear a size large. Second thing is, I have a bit of my own personal activism. Is the unfortunate reality that I can't be anyone else but me. Fair. And I'm gonna wear a weed shirt to the function. Okay. Right. And it's like, part of it is this is just me. I enjoy marijuana, but it's also the reality that like 40% of my wardrobe has weed on it. And so I don't feel weird about it. I used to feel real weird about it. I don't I'll pack them in luggage if I'm traveling, but if I'm like driving long distances, I don't wear a weed shirt That's like my one caveat, because in case I get pulled over, I want to look at, you know, someone else, pretty much, someone who's not Kevin Roche. But yeah, and so like,
I always fear the judgment. I have, and I've, you know, we talked about this a lot on the show, but the kids in the community, and you gotta, if I was working for freaking Sam Adams, I'd wear that shirt everywhere, and parents would give me high fives, and it'd be awesome. When I walk into the school with the cannabis shirt, like they they look the other way. It's awkward. I did it one time. It never happens again. The students dig it, especially at the high school, but it's,
oh, you went to a high school with a weed shirt on?
Oh, I got a high school student. Yes. It was just a CSC shirt, but even that, it was just a CSC shirt, by the way. It was the word. It wasn't even a leaf. It was the word. I saw it on my thing. I didn't even think. I was a polo shirt. I didn't even think about it. Didn't even think about it. I wear polo shirts all the time. That didn't even occur to me. Right. But yes, it was a little, I got a comment. So, what else I find when I went to the grocery store or the gas station, sorry, just with one of our shirts on, big old thing. And someone's like, yo, bro, you packing? I'm like, well, first of all, it's not an advertisement. Like, it's not. I find like when you wear, once again, if I was wearing a Thirsty Dog, Great Lakes Brewery, no one would be like, hey, bro, can I have a beer? But if I'm wearing that shirt, they're like, hey, you got any? I'm like, no.
Yeah. Like,
I do, but I'm not giving it. Yes, exactly. Who asked that?
That was a police officer. That's who asked that. That's the first thing you should know. But the second thing is just like, this is America. Mind your fucking business. What do you mean? You have a problem with my t-shirt? Don't you have real problems? Don't you have real problems in your life that don't revolve around concern about my t-shirt? Okay? Maybe you should confront instead within yourself the inner judgment where you feel like you have to comment on a stranger's shirt. And maybe it's because you don't feel okay about yourself and you're so conscious about the image you put out when it's not really a representation of you. And so when you see somebody doing it, it really sticks in your fucking craw. Okay? But mind your business. Whatever.
What are you gonna do? You should not go on the internet, because that's all the internet is people not minding their own business for likes. You like to mind your own business. Let's get this out there. Let's talk about it, because I'm curious. Although you just corrected me on the show titles, novels, and nepotism, I want to talk a little bit before we go about nepotism in the industry. But you're like, hey, man, I've been working on a book. I want to get on the show and talk about it. So I came up with a clever title. We meet in the lobby, and you're like, it's not a novel. It's nonfiction. I'm like, well, I should have clarified. I know the difference between a novel and a nonfiction. But I guess I don't know what that says about me versus what I think about you. But I pictured you as more the creative, kind of writing this novel instead. But now that I really think through this aloud, you are a research guy. You're a person who gets into that shit. So it would make sense that you are finding a topic to delve into. So let's hear it. What are you digging into? What nonfiction-esque thing are you digging into right now?
Well, right now I'm writing a book about drugs. Okay, pretty simple. So I'll start there.
I assumed it was of that ilk. I assumed it was in that lane. Like you're on that highway. I don't know what exit you're getting off at, but you're definitely on the drug way.
Yeah. So the idea is, I'm not from Cleveland. You know, I'm from Western Pennsylvania, which is Appalachia, right? And the book is about Appalachian history and the drug war and how that defined Appalachian culture and history from like a post-war perspective. The historical thing is like, I'm not treating it like it's still going on. I'm doing kind of like a post-game, kind of looking at it neutral on both sides of the conflict of law enforcement versus criminals, you know? And I am interviewing criminals. I interviewed a criminologist, and I'm spending a lot of time reading about like, dude, I've been reading law enforcement manuals from the 1980s Kentucky State Police, like about the cannabis eradication program. I'm neck deep. Okay. And
so they had a program in the 80s that was literally just the CEP, man, just get rid of all weed, right?
Dude. All right. So first off, from the moment that like Nixon signed the Controlled Substances Act, Kentucky has been Kentucky is one of the greatest cannabis growing regions in the United States, if not the world.
I've heard that. I heard there's CBD, the bluegrass. I heard it's amazing down there.
If you just let the shackles off them and let them grow, it's like banning champagne in France. All right, sorry. And it's anyway. What happened is the Kentucky State Police was very effective at destroying cannabis crops, the cannabis eradication program. And I was able to get a hold of this manual from 1988, and they had this retrospective about like what they've been doing. And so it's really cool to see a law enforcement perspective on cannabis eradication and also like how they were funding it, what kind of units were they using, what kind of personnel, how were they thinking about cannabis at this period, which I consider like the Reagan years to be like the peak drug war, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Because
full just say no. They're talking about it all the time. It's the IRC 280E started in 1981 after that dude got busted for coke. So you're right there, early 80s. You had not only just the CSA, but now you have the taxation issues with controlled stuff. That started also. So early 80s, I would agree. That is full on public media. No other backlash from the internet people that do it. They have no outlet, no voice for the users. Yes, I would agree with you. That was probably the biggest crackdown.
Yeah, and that was a big part of it was, but I'm not just doing recent history, right? Like, so the idea is that Appalachia in the United States has had a relationship with drugs, especially cannabis, for like ever. And it's been a very strange relationship where it's like, you ever meet one of those couples that they'll argue and split up and come back together, and there's all this drama between them, but no they love each other.
Please. Oh, I do.
That's what it is. It is this thing of where Americans in cannabis, especially in Appalachia, we interact and identify with drugs in a way that it is like central to American culture, and especially central to like Appalachian culture. You know, even making a decision to not interact with drugs at all, to be completely abstinent, is itself an interaction, because you are considering and then making an action within to participate or not in this culture. It's super deep. Appalachia is one of those places that is consistently overlooked in American history, and all sorts of crazy shit has happened because they think nobody's looking, because there's this relative isolation in the mountains. Crazy stuff.
It's interesting. And I think it's funny because right now, I think if you say, if I say Appalachia drugs, you say pills, you say oxy, you say that type of stuff. And so we know, and Justified, it's my favorite TV show. The whole thing's about the Appalachian Mountains down in there. And there's been a lot of some great documentaries about the decline of it. And I really like the idea of, look, we know it's happened. I don't know if we need to know why it happened anymore. We know what's happened. We know the area's declined. It's funny, and I think it's interesting that people don't understand, and I only have a cursory knowledge because I've learned how rich that soil is and how much like great CBD like West Virginia, Tennessee could grow if given the ability to do so. But I think that cannabis side, I don't think people even think about it. When you say Appalachia, everyone goes like really, white, demise, pill popping meth kind of area. And so it's interesting. And I feel like that has overshadowed all other drug conversations in that area. So you even think about introducing a legal drug, air quotes here. I think that scares people because they're afraid of what's the word? Like, oh, they're going to, that they'll get back on the pills, even though we know it doesn't. But I think that's interesting. How do they combat that? How do they get over that bad marketing of all do oxy here?
Yeah, well, I have a chapter which I've been writing called "In Darkness in the Shadow of the Mountain," where I make the comparison how, like, when you see a mountain at noon, there's a side that is going to be cast into shadow. And we talk, and in the book, I'm talking about cannabis, I'm talking about moonshine, I'm talking about psilocybin mushrooms. But in this specific chapter, I address what I call the 4 horsemen of the Appalachian apocalypse, where I talk about methamphetamine, heroin, prescription pill abuse, and then fentanyl. And I talk about the interactions with society, how they interact with the biology. How do these drugs affect you? What do they do to you? How does it kill you? And then I go through like all these different statistics on like how collect. There's something called SUDORs. You ever hear about that? It's a monitoring system that the National Institute of Health uses to monitor drug abuse and overdoses in the United States. All right. It's a tool that we use that we just kind of compile statistics from. And it's really useful because I've been using that to kind of like compare and contrast these different drugs in the context of their history as well. Socially destructive drugs in Appalachia are a huge problem. They are drugs of despair. When we talk about Appalachia, we have a lot of somebody else's thoughts showing up. That's what I think of as stereotypes and tropes. It's somebody else's thoughts. It's not really your objective kind of analysis. It's just what somebody else thought up first.
I like that, though. It's true, though.
It's true. Yeah. So when you go into Appalachia, you think, well, okay, why are these people selling drugs? They're fucking, there's no money. There's no money. All right. The average annual income in places like deep West Virginia is like something like $61,000, which is $40,000 off of the national U.S. average. Okay. There are places like where there is 20% poverty rates. Okay.
Wow,
in Appalachia. So like, yeah, people are selling drugs and they're probably doing some kind of amoral things to get by, but that's the social reality. Like like BC, you do it too. I do it. I did it. I did sell drugs. So
it's part of it. Yeah, you have to. It almost becomes like you have to get out, and there's no easy way out of there, right? You're very kept in that area, and so yeah, you have to find a way out. And if you're not going to be able to do some blue collar work, and then you get into that, which is, I think you either got two choices: you got blue collar work, or you have that, and that sounds like way more an enjoyable and probably easier lifestyle.
Well,
to
you know something, that this is an interesting development. I have a friend. His name is Matthew Dennis. He is a criminologist, professional. Could you imagine that? All right. And so
yeah, we all got to have someone on the other side.
It's cool, but he's like a doctor of crime, right? Like it's pretty rad. Anyway, we were talking, part of what he does for his work is he works closely. I'm not going to mention any agencies that he works with, but he works closely with the population that uses these kind of drugs of abuse. We're talking about those big four, right? And there is internal perception within these drug cultures of pushing those big four drugs out. It's like a Matryoshka doll of, drugs, because within the war of drugs, there's another war on drugs where people are like, especially in this area, there's this renaissance of people being able to get access to cannabis, people like shooting opioids because now they have a better alternative, which is exactly why they were using it in the first place. They didn't have a better alternative. And so now they have choices. Now they have a better economy. Now they have a better way to support themselves. And a lot of the thing, I talk a lot about like the mountains being the memory of the world, because we're the oldest geological formations in existence. All right. The Appalachian mountain chain existed before teeth evolved. Before teeth, BC. All right.
They're that
old. And so they have witnessed everything that has been, that will be. And so the people that live on this also have long memories as well. And they've been drawing on these ancestral skills of growing cannabis in, again, one of the greatest cannabis growing regions in the world. All right. And they're just bringing it back. It's a rebel. The wheel is turning.
So what do you think happens? And maybe this leads into the second part. I had read this article about like nepotism in cannabis, and you hear about nepo babies in the industry, like family stuff. And while it's not exactly related, but some of the article was about how a certain state, and I remember which state they were documenting, and this relates to Kentucky now being a medicinal cannabis state, like that first tiptoe into it, kind of bringing us back to what we talked about in the beginning. Ooh. What happens now in Kentucky? Because what happens a lot of times, and it happened here in Ohio and other states, they move in, it becomes big business, it becomes briberies, and bribery is a strong word, backdoor relationships and backdoor businesses, so to speak, right? Handshake deals, those type of things. Does Kentucky, I got to imagine, like many states, all those folks that you just referenced with ancestral, great word, by the way, ancestral lineage of cannabis genetic knowledge, they're not going to be the people growing indoor. And this is the other part that's about to happen. All that great soil you just preached about, they're not going to grow that for this program. They're going to grow. They're going to grow indoors because it's cheaper and it's economically scalable. And they just are. Is that going to be a bummer? Because I feel like Kentucky is there, but it doesn't sound like those folks. I would highly doubt those folks, as happens in most states, are the ones who reap the reward of cannabis recognition.
It's like eating a McDonald's hamburger staring at a butcher shop.
Yes. It is great metaphor.
It's very frustrating because, again, let's imagine they outlawed growing grapes in Champagne, France, right? It is a very frustrating.
It's not too much like outlaw growing grapes. It's only the people with millions of dollars are allowed to grow grapes. And even though we have amazing
Are
soil,
they?
we're going to
Are
grow
they?
them in a lab.
I think
Like, even though we could grow,
it's only the rich people that are gonna grow. People are just
Yes.
gonna stop. They're gonna, oh, there's a law now.
Yeah,
oh,
only
there's
rich
a
people
law
can
now
grow it,
here
and you
in
can only grow it
Appalachia? I'm
indoors.
gonna
even though you can only grow it indoors now too. That's a few rules.
It's not happening. No, listen. People are gonna do what they're gonna do, and what they do is grow cannabis. And whether a law or not is there, it doesn't matter, because they've been doing it since 1798, dude. Since there have been people there, it's been going as an underground economy. Like, it doesn't, like, I know there's a law, but in the context of these people and where they're living, what law, right? I know 5 villages near my house where I grew up that have no organized police force, right?
Wow.
There's no money for books. There's not going to be money for domestic warfare, okay? Like, so you have to change your perceptions. Like, oh, there's a law. Well, okay, there's a law somewhere written up in, Harrisburg, but that's a far ways away. And so we're just going to do what we need to do to put food on this table. And that's the way of it.
Maybe what comes out of this. Go ahead.
So they have this medical establishment, right, that is popping up. Yes, big business is going to come in. Yes, big business is going to have these things. What have we also noticed? What is the observable trend? We have decriminalization, we have medicalization, and finally, a couple of years down the road, we have full-blown legalization. That is the area where we can have a legacy market, even exist. But I think it's a naive perception that, people are just going to say, oh, well, there's a law now, I guess I got to stop. It was illegal in the first place, right?
Well, I don't think they're going to stop growing.
That's a new law going to do.
I don't think they're going to stop growing. They're just not going to get the jobs. They're not going to make the money that the people who grow indoors and already have money are going to make. And I think that's what happens. I wonder, though, if maybe like California did a little bit, you got some conversation, you got more spotlight on legacy growers in Humboldt County and that stuff. I wonder if Kentucky finally gets that spotlight, if there's going to be some cannabis media folks getting down there, maybe like your book, getting down there telling the story, and then it becomes a little bit more of the spotlight on the history and lineage, which then, maybe some folks can squeeze their way. Yeah. Hopefully there's some that squeeze their way. I'm sure there's a few.
And I think there's another way that we gotta think about things. Like, it's never going to be like one way or the other. It's never going to be just like only these big money people are going to come in, but there are going to be legacy growers that do insinuate themselves within the industry. Like, It is not like that's just been a pattern, but also, right, like, if you are a medical marijuana company and you're moving into one of these regions and you're not hiring these people, that's your own folly, right?
Yeah.
You think that like some college kid from, KSU is going to be doing it better than somebody who's been doing it since the 70s? I know you just had Jorge Cervantes on. All right.
That was awesome.
Yeah,
Dustin
Jorge's the man. But like, that's a legacy market guy who's has a whole career. Okay.
Very legacy.
It would be a naive to assume that like, it's only going to be these like flatlander outsider college, plants that get the jobs. Yeah. Because again, like the way medical marijuana is situated in the United States, it has to be in state, right? So, at least the money is not going to be going to, California or something like that. Like, at least it's going to stay within, hopefully, the localized economy.
Hopefully they do. Hopefully they find more. Yeah, Jorge, so legacy, he left the country. Like, that's how legit he is to the calls. He's like, I'm out of the country. He was a fun conversation. He was a little all over the place during the call, but he was fun. Dustin was super geeked out to just kind of talk to him because, and like a lot of people, like that, his books that were available online were some of the first knowledge that a lot of people started with. I hear that all the time. Like, that was the first person who wrote about it.
Jorge Cervantes should be on your shelf for the same reason that Socrates should be on your shelf. Right? Like, it's just important information. If you're going to be in this culture, then you should be familiar with this dude because he's been here this whole time and he's seen
it. Seen it.
He's done it. He's got the t-shirt, right? Like, and you would be a fool if you're a company not to draw on these like incredible resources that are existing in a legacy market. Anyway, just to go back to that.
It's fun though, but they don't always. Sometimes they don't because in this, I mean, this is just, it's the ongoing evolution of cannabis and it always will be interesting to see. It's the science versus the social kind of that's the wrong word I want. Like just these people who are like understand it, and, like within their genetics and know how to do it and get it. But the people who are looking at is business, right? And trying to push it out and scalability. And there's a scalability doesn't equal love. It just doesn't. It's hard. It's hard for not just cannabis. I mean, that's a business conversation. It's hard for anyone to go from like making this in love. Yeah.
It almost seems like the solution is cooperation, collaboration, and I don't know, diverse viewpoints towards the same goal. Maybe that's like if you don't do sure, there's companies that are not going to do that and they're just going to bring in but that's to their folly. That's like, hey, people do dumb stuff all the time. How many people shoot themselves in the foot, spinning a revolver around trying to play cowboy? Happens all the time. Right?
Happens all the time.
I know a guy. All right. So we can't. Yeah, I know.
There's that Plaxico Burris. Shout out to Plaxico Burris. John Morant's about to do it too. A little thing there. It's just interesting. I want to get going. We do have a harder out here today. So I want to, before I let go, I got a couple of things we got to make sure we talk about and give you some credit for. We're definitely going to have you back on, Kevin. We'll chat again for that. So let's give some shout outs. Kevin Roche, we're going to put your Instagram here on screen. Look at that handsome little picture of you in the upper corner there. There you are. Kevin Roche, KevinWroche. We'll have a link below in the content in the description as well. Grab that. Look at you guys. Awesome photos on there. Kevin's going to be talking about his book, putting more stuff on his Instagram account. So follow that. But I do got to give, we got you on here, but I want to give a shout out. Kevin and I recently bonded over tattoos. Who would have known? I'm not a tattoo guy. I learned Kevin is, and it sounds like it's about to be a family affair, Kevin Roche, because the wife, and you can check this out, Jessica Roche .draws, Jessica Roche .draws, JESSICAROCHE.draws. Once again, there's a link in the description below. Is got her tattoo apprenticeship going into the world. So
and
what's
she's
it like?
Also going to be doing illustrations for the book. That's where it's relevant for
cannabis
discussion. All right, sorry, carry on. You were saying,
it's going to be doing that. I'm just curious what it's like to have thinking about the tattoo is this thing you go and you get, and now it becomes a job. I wonder, cannabis, does she, has she thought about what's it like to go from fun to income? Because sometimes that ruins the fun.
Well, I think that to be a tattoo artist takes dedication to the craft. There's no, you shouldn't be a tattoo artist if you're not sure that this is the path you want to take. And she's been very dedicated, very serious. And I'm only proud of her for the far she's come.
That's awesome.
It is an accomplishment, and it's hard to do. It is a manual craft, something that somebody did with their hands.
Yeah.
The last time, okay, that's a different quality of thing, and it's a respectable and honorable career, I think. Yeah,
respectable honor career. I agree.
Yeah,
we'll look forward to those illustrations as well on the book. We'll hold all those links as well as our charity walk as well that we talked about earlier in the show. Thank you, Kevin, for joining me on today's show. We're gonna have you back. We'll talk, we'll chat more, do more of these in the future. Thank you for joining me today on the show. I really appreciate you kind of hanging out with us today, doing all those fun things. I'm trying to find.
I apologize for shouting. Okay.
What kind of a shouter? I think we just know
yeller,
that,
buddy. I just amazing.
All right, that's right. I have music control in the background, or not music control. I started the music. I have audio control, so when you get shouty, I kind of tune you down a little bit. So the final product is going to be okay for that part. All right. There's our music, Kevin. Thank you, man, for joining me today. This has been Because Cannabis from Wayward Media. Every single Wednesday, 4:20 p.m. Brand new shows on YouTube. Make sure you give us a subscription. And then on Thursdays, brand new videos on Spotify, brand new audio podcasts, anywhere you listen to audio podcasts. Don't forget, Raven Ariola, PlantSaveMyLife.com is going to be joining us on the network. And
Raven, have me on.
Shout out for Raven. And then Bud Love, visit budlove.com, save 15% off your purchase with Wayward 15. All right, that's the show, everyone. See you next week.
See you later.